Hi, everyone. My name is Chloe Mistagi, and I'm the founder of We Are Hackers and co-founder of WOSEC and Hacking is Not a Crime. And today we're going to talk about stalkerware. And I have an incredible panel ready to share everything about stalkerware and where we stand actually today about it. So welcome to Jill and the Ben Stalked. And with me today, I have Zena Olson and Joe Gray. Before I introduce them, I'm going to briefly tell you why this topic means so much to me. And our panelists, when they introduce themselves, they will also share why this matters to them as well. So I have friends and family members that basically have dealt with stalkerware for many, many years. And usually it's an ex-boyfriend or an ex-husband, or even just a friend that had a love interest in them. And it becomes really scary because it's not just someone stalking outside your window. They're also knowing everything that you're looking up, everything that's going on in your mind. Because when you have access to someone's cell phone, you learn what are the things that are going through their mind, everything about them and who they're connecting with, also where they're located. This opens a door for abusers to take full advantage of victims. So Zena, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and why stalkerware, this whole conversation matters to you?
Sure. Thank you, Chloe. And thank you to everyone that has come to our talk. I'm really excited to share about stalkerware. I have an MBA. I'm a cybersecurity doctoral student at Marymount University. I am a graduate of the SANS Women's Academy. I'm also involved with DEF CON's Blue Team Village. I have 8 GX certifications. And why is stalkerware important to me? Well, I was a victim of stalkerware. I got to experience it firsthand. And my experiences with stalkerware actually led to my career in information security. So that's why it means a lot to me. I firsthand experience. Also, I have family members that have been impacted by it as well. So I can tackle it from multiple angles. Thank you.
Thanks, Zena. Joe, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and why this is such an interest to you?
Absolutely. So hi, I'm Joe Gray. I'm the founder and principal instructor with the OSINTion, as well as the founder and lead investigator for Transparent Intelligence Services. I'm a Hacking is Not a Crime advocate. I also work with nonprofits such as Operation Safe Escape, National Child Protection Task Force, and Trace Labs. I'm passionate about most things dealing with open source intelligence, OSINT, and while stalkerware is something that crosses the proverbial plane that we normally say we don't cross with OSINT, based on my work with various organizations and seeing the damage that this can do to people and how just dirty stalkerware in general is, I feel that I should probably speak up and say something about this, because my main goal working in the security industry as a whole is to make the world a safer place tomorrow than it is today. And I'm at such a point that we really just can't bury our heads in the sand and ignore something. This is not something that's going to go away by ignoring it.
I fully agree. And I'm very glad that RSA Conference accepted this talk and allowing us to speak about this, because more and more people need to know about stalkerware. It is so critical because 1 out of 8 in the US have stated that they have used stalkerware or spyware on someone that they've been in a relationship with or were in a previous relationship with. And that's those that admit to it. So think about that. That number might be way higher than what we think of at this moment. It's becoming prevalent, and especially in our industry. So what we're going to be talking about on this entire panel is, first of all, what is stalkerware, how it's used. So if you're a beginner, this is the first time you've ever heard about stalkerware, don't worry, we're going to walk it through. What are the characteristics of stalkerware? Also, what are the motivations of using stalkerware? Who are these victims of stalkerware? What are the technological issues and resources as well. And Zena, I'm looking forward for you sharing a little bit about your actual experience as well. And the most important thing at the end of this panel is for everyone to know how they have a role in protecting people and how they can stop stalkerware from occurring, or at least try to reduce that 1 out of 8 statistic that I shared earlier. Throughout the panel, there's going to be this slide that's going to be sharing. And I just want you all to know to please take a screenshot of it or take a photo of it and share it, because people need to know that there are resources out there for those that are victims of stalkerware. Because sometimes when people are dealing with stalkerware, it's incredibly hard to get help. There are times where we know of people that have been basically, they've shared with a therapist because it's such a traumatic experience. And what ends up happening is that they'll be notified as someone with psychosis and then go to a mental health institute thinking that they're delusional or paranoid. But to be honest, this is such an ongoing and really, really prevalent issue that we need to really address and have more of the public understand how prevalent it is. I want to first note that none of us are credentialed mental health practitioners at all. We're just some InfoSec nerds at the end of the day. But this topic is so critically and important, and we want to share from our perspectives of what it is like. But also, I'm looking forward to doing this because I know too many people that have had this happen. And I do want to just state that the opinions expressed in this entire presentation are those of the presenters in their individual capacity and not necessarily those of employers. So let's start, shall we? So the first question I have is for Zena. Zena, what exactly is stalkerware or spyware?
So the Coalition Against Domestic Violence and a lot of the other organizations out there, the generalized description of stalkerware is software that's used to facilitate intimate partner violence, period. That's just a very broad definition of it. And so it falls under the category of intimate partner surveillance tools. And with that, it could include commodity stalkerware or spyware. It could include dual use apps like Find My Phone. It could be MRATs, which is a mobile remote access Trojan, i.e. malware. It could also be shared accounts. A lot of times in relationships and all of that, you share your account and they gain access to your information. And there's also, of course, OSINT and social media. A lot of social engineering could be involved with intimate partner surveillance tools or techniques. And then, asking to see receipts to confirm that you were at a certain place at a certain time and just things like that.
And Joe, briefly, can you just share with people who usually uses stalkerware on victims?
Anyone really could use stalkerware. Oftentimes, to Zena's point, it would be abusive or jealous lovers, acquaintances, or it could even be coworkers, employees. But because at the end of the day, stalkerware is a type of malware. Basically, it is malicious in nature. The intention of the software is malicious. It could just be someone could be targeted as the target of opportunity. It could be that someone got access to data breach information and just started to hone in. We could talk about anyone leading up all the way up to nation states doing this kind of stuff. This would definitely be that level of espionage or surveillance and reconnaissance, although it doesn't pass the litmus test for OSINT per se. Or it could just be bored people with incredible capacities for writing code that just decide they're going to do something for the lulz, if you will, and they don't think things all the way through. So in summation, it could be pretty much anyone. because at the end of the day, you don't have to be able to write it yourself. There are places you can go to get it. We won't mention them. We're not going to, because we are actively advocating against advertising that type of information. But it's not terribly challenging to hop on the internet and go to certain places on the internet and purchase stalkerware, purchase ransomware, MRATs, or whatever you may want.
Yeah, I definitely have heard a bunch of cases of this happening to a journalist. There's been lots of stories about stalkerware being used on journalists who, especially if they're reporting some story that is very, very sensitive to governments or like multinational like companies. Zena, I have a question for you. So how does it work and how accessible is it? I know that Joe mentioned that it is pretty easy to get. And I know that we're not going to share where to get it, but do you mind sharing a little bit of how accessible it is and how does it work exactly?
Yes, type in your browser "spy on my wife" and that pretty much answers all your questions. And, for cost wise, it's actually really affordable. Anywhere from $50 to $200 for either monthly, quarterly, or annual subscriptions, depending upon the particular flavor of stalkerware that you want to purchase. And Stalkerware offers they offer tiers of service based upon what it is that you purchase. But overall, in general, the straight out of the box, without doing any add-ons, essentially, there's basic active and passive data collection. So what does that mean? It can read your text, it can read your call logs, some chat apps, pics and videos, some of your browser history, GPS location. You can tier up, add in being able to monitor social media. It just depends. And basically, commodity stalkerware is extremely easy to use, super cheap, readily available, and it has similar capabilities to MRAT's mobile remote access Trojans and spyware. It requires no user interaction and no technical skill. One of the spyware or stalkerware vendors, they actually advertise that the purchaser can call them at like 2 a.m. and get help with setting up stalkerware on the device that they want to put it on. So, the only drawback is that it does require physical access to the device for the attacker. Like I said, no user interaction, so no victim interaction with the stalkerware. It actually requires the attacker to gain access to the device. And then in most cases, it requires internet access. So for instance, Android, they need to have the ability to install apps from unknown sources, and they need to disable Google Play Protect. And then for Apple devices, they need to be jailbroken, or you can spy on them via iCloud account access.
I'm glad that you brought up about the physical access device, because I know of some of my girlfriends, they actually had to throw away their phone and get a brand new, not reconnected to the cloud, nothing. They had to start fresh all over again because the devices, and also brand new laptops too. Like, it's expensive when we're like dating and we have people that want to use this stuff on us. Joe, you mentioned a little bit about OSINT earlier when it comes to stalkerware. Can you share a little bit more about how would an attacker use OSINT? And for those in our audience that don't know what OSINT is, can you briefly touch on that, please?
Sure. So OSINT is an acronym for open source intelligence. That is data collected in an intelligence context from publicly available sources. You don't have to utilize any hacker tools or techniques for it. Oftentimes, the people readily share that information with you via social media, or it could be from search engines, it could be from data aggregators and data brokers. On the business side, there are some aspects of OSINT that are part of what I call the cost of doing business on the internet, things like domain name service, DNS, or for publicly traded companies, public filings, not to mention public records as well. So for people who weren't aware of what the term OSINT really means, there's a good chance you've probably been doing OSINT for years and you just didn't know that's what it was called. OSINT can play into stalkerware a variety of ways, because as someone goes to stalk someone else, there are a lot of ways that they could go to gain that access. So they may be able to gain access to iCloud credentials because people reuse the same passwords, and someone uses OSINT techniques to find data breaches that a particular email address or username may be associated with, and they find a pattern of, oh, this person uses spring 2021 as their password. So let's see. Oh, they created their account in the fall of 2019. Let's try fall 2019. Oh, that didn't work. Autumn 2019. Oh, that did work. Or it could just be that people just legitimately use the same password everywhere. But it also affords potential stalkers and adversaries the ability to watch what is happening and use it in concert with the stalkerware to confirm information that they are collecting in terms of what are they getting from the photos, where are they. They may get the photos but not find the location data, so they may have to use image intelligence techniques like reverse image searching or looking at exchangeable image format, photo metadata, or even forensic images, not forensic images in the regard of like memory captures and hard drives, but looking at an image from a forensic perspective to look for alterations. There's a lot of stuff that could be done for that. And it's important to note that from the OSINT perspective, we try to stay as passive as possible. We try to be transparent. If we were talking about the team colors like red team, blue team, gold team, orange team, etc., if OSINT was its own team, OSINT should be the transparent team or the clear team, because there should be little to no detection capability. And as a byproduct of that, that can really go sideways really quick. There are a lot of noble uses for it, like assisting in finding missing people and investigating potential crimes, dealing with things like children or cryptocurrency, and of course, threat intelligence. But at the end of the day, regarding the techniques, the OSINT techniques, as well as any software, what really determines the outcome is the intention. So you can have great intentions, but cross lines using OSINT just as you can with any other software. So this can definitely play a significant role in it. Not to mention that if anyone uses, say, a smishing or phishing technique to try to gain further access, having the proper amount of OSINT collected before that engagement can provide some invaluable context to be able to impersonate whomever or whatever, to be able to influence or manipulate the victim into doing what they need to do.
And Zena, how prevalent is this problem?
Well, really quick, since we're in the pandemic, I just thought I'd mention that all the reports that I've read on it have stated that the use of stalkerware has increased by a ridiculous amount since the start of the pandemic. So for whatever reason, it's increased. Malwarebytes actually reports a 190% increase. And Avira says that they're seeing a 99% increase in the use of stalkerware. And according to the Stalking Prevention Awareness and Resource Center, it's called SPARC, in the United States, stalking impacts about 6 to 7.5 million people or devices per year. And that 1 in 4 of the victims report being stalked through some form of technology. So that's a pretty big deal to me.
So clearly it seems pretty easy to do, and it's very prevalent at this time. Can you give like maybe 1 or 2 specific examples?
Yeah, so like I said, there's different flavors of stalkerware and then different tiers of service that is available. So for instance, Moby Stealth, they provide information on how to disable two-factor authentication when accessing a victim's iCloud device. That's extra helpful, right? To get more stalkerware and more visibility. MSpy, they let you hide the icon. So you can spy on someone and they might not see that that's going on. FlexiSpy lets you look at deleted messages, and the fun part is that it's undetectable. So that's great for the victims, of course. And claims that it doesn't need to be on a device that's jailbroken or rooted to install. I haven't confirmed that claim, but that's what they're claiming. I don't know if I believe it, but that's what they say, probably to get money, but we'll see. And then TruthSpy markets itself as an alternative to quote unquote hacking the victim's cell phone. So that's fun.
So clearly there's a lot of abusers out there and that are wanting to do this. And there are plenty of technology out there that helps abusers continue the abuse. Wonderful. This is great to know.
Yeah.
I'm being sarcastic just for people to know on that front. Joe, right?
Sarcastic as well. I don't think it's a good thing.
So if I may, here are some other vectors that could even go with that, though. Instead of even going the route of purchasing any of the wares mentioned or anything along those lines, you could easily use parental control software. Other ways that this could be perpetrated would be the aggressor inviting someone to join their password manager account so that they can gain access to the vault or whatever terminology is used to get all of their passwords. That's a method as well. Of course, with parental control software, things like NetNanny and things to that nature, that could be used. Not to mention joint Facebook accounts or joint social media accounts, joint email accounts in general, that could be used as well, in addition to things like Find My iPhone and similar products for that. There's a lot of different creative ways people could go. I mean, if someone had the technical expertise, they realistically could take a forensic image of a mobile device. And I mean, in this context, I actually do mean like the true forensic image of memory and storage, and potentially reverse engineer some information out of it and basically do offensive forensics, if you will.
And so we've talked a lot about people and in particular being victims of stalkerware, but I know Zena, you've done a lot of research also about how could stalkerware impact enterprises. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that front too?
Yeah, I'll give a really high level overview. It's not going to be in depth at all. And I'm just going to run through this really quick. So basically, stalkerware vendors are notoriously compromised because hacktivists hate them. And they're constantly getting popped. Let's see, poor security practices, misconfigs. There's just a long list of stalkerware vendors that have been compromised, some of them twice. So there's that to think about. The data's on there. Let's say I have stalkerware on one of my devices and I'm in a work meeting and they're recording the device and it's on a compromised, stalkerware vendor's infrastructure. What's going to happen with that, right? So that's one potential vector to think about. There's also mobile device management, MDM servers. So Check Point actually released a report where 75%, that's a lot, of a multinational company's mobile devices were infected with an MRAT. And basically, they compromised the MDM server, they pushed out the MRAT, and then anything that the people did on that particular phone, such as corporate creds or 2FA codes or anything like that, it was compromised, and the company had to do just a big org-wide factory reset. So that's a big impact to daily business operations. The other point is that if you look at the infection chain of Stalkerware, just the technical aspects of it, it actually maps back to a kill chain, the Lockheed Martin kill chain. And you can go step by step through that. And I'll spare y'all for it, but basically, trust me, it does. And I'm more than happy to discuss this, afterwards if you're curious. And the other fun thing is that MITRE ATT&CK has a mobile option for their tactics, techniques, and procedures. So for instance, with me, my particular stalker or attacker, he used dental mold to lift the prints off of my phone to gain access to it. And believe it or not, that is actually a tactic in MITRE ATT&CK's techniques for mobile. And it's initial access, it's lock screen bypass, and then of course the specific procedure was dental mold. You can also use Play-Doh as well. There are actually YouTube videos on it. If you just type in YouTube, like how to gain access, there's tutorials, they explain everything. So it even has, how to capture SMS messages. That's also a technique as well. So definitely check that out if you're interested. The Citizens Lab did a report on the effectiveness of AV at catching Stalkerware, and it's actually really bad. So that's also another concern. And I wanted to give concrete figures for the numbers people out there for corporate America. I found some stats based on men and women. I apologize for the non-binary folks. I don't mean to exclude you. It's just those are the stats I have. So please forgive me. And basically they said that 1 out of 3 women have experienced some form of intimate partner violence and 1 out of 6 men. And so what I did is I took a sample size of about 20,000 employees, let's say corporate America, right? And I did the math, I did the figures, and that came to about 25% or 5,000 of the employees have been impacted at some time in their lives with intimate partner violence. So then I did some more digging and I found some stats on people that were impacted with intimate partner violence and also had Stalkerware, and it came out that 54% of intimate partner violence survivors, they were also tracked with Stalkerware. So when you do 54% of 5K, that comes out to 2.7K or approximately 13.5% of the general number of employees of 20,000 that were impacted at some point by Stalkerware. That's a lot. So it can impact corporate America.
Also,
Jeez.
yeah, we should also factor in that while we're focusing on the Stalkerware aspect, going back to the intention, this could very easily be used partially by nation states for corporate espionage as well, or industrial espionage to gain access. So that's always a vector as well, especially when we factor in that a lot of countries try to use people to date or get intimate with people to put this type of stuff on there. It has that perspective as well. So this is vitally important for the people who are actually being stalked, but it's also something that businesses should not put their heads in the sand for, because while it may be an employee being targeted, at the same time, it could have potential outcomes at the corporate level as well.
So basically, from what I'm gathering here, if one wants to prevent stalkerware on their device, basically never leave your phones unattended. Even when you're dating someone, don't trust them. Have zero trust policy at the very beginning of the relationship and always monitor your phone. Always delete unused apps, I'm guessing too. Maybe check permissions on installed apps, check browser history. Constantly, regularly search for suspicious apps and activity on phones. And I guess the other thing for sure, everyone should be using a password manager if you're attending an RSA conference. If you're in security, you should be on that. And never, ever share a password with anyone. Don't use the same password more than once, like Joe pointed out earlier. And change your phone passcodes very frequently. Those are things I know if I'm going to prevent it. But now,
Factor authentication as well.
yes.
And if you can do a hardware-based multi-factor token, that is probably the number one pick, but it can be a massive pain in the rear if you need to access something and you don't have it. So number two would be something application-based, like Google Authenticator or Duo. And then worst comes to worst, if you have no other options, then SMS-based multi-factor authentication. But know that that could be played into the vectors as well.
All right. So now I have to ask the big question, Zena. As someone who went through stalkerware, I have definitely have heard of stories from my friends and family members that they went to the FBI, they went to the police, and there was no attention to it. They didn't know, nothing ever happened when they reported it. So what are some resources that actually exist out there that actually does help or helped you when you were dealing with stalkerware?
Well, I honestly didn't have the best experience. I consulted with lawyers, multiple lawyers, and I even went to a hacker community, quote unquote, and they kind of laughed at me because they said it's so common that it's not a problem. And it was new to me, you know, not being a part of information security or anything. I was still kind of in shock that someone would do it. And it seems pretty like they weren't shocked by it, basically. Some really great resources otherwise, though. I personally at the time decided not to pursue it. I just got a new phone, got new laptops, all of that. But you know, if you do want to speak with people or get help or whatever, Operation Safe Escape is a good option. Checking out stopstalkerware.org as well. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence is also helpful, and the National Network to End Domestic Violence as well. And for the corporate America participants, if you are interested in finding out solutions for corporate America specifically and dealing with employees and all of that, there's a company called Tall Poppy, tallpoppy.io, and they are willing to help. They're super awesome. Definitely check them out. And, you know, Kaspersky actually came out with a tool recently called TinyCheck. And it actually checks the internet traffic from your devices, and it searches back, you know, related IOCs. And I believe Tall Poppy changed their website to tallpoppy.com. So I apologize, tallpoppy.com. And then Kaspersky also offers AV solutions. Norton AV does as well. Malwarebytes. You can scan your device with Lookout AV. I mean, generally, a lot of the AV solutions, they're still kind of up and coming. Sometimes it catches it. So just it's better to have it than not have it, in my opinion, personally. When I was going through it, I purchased AV just in case, right? So there's that.
Okay. So from what I'm gathering from both of you guys, and thank you once again for sharing your knowledge and everything, is that right now as individuals, we can actually do something about this. And the first thing is to push for app stores to remove any applications that track or monitor others without their permission, and also not allowing the advertising of any type of stalkerware vendors anywhere. And also we need legislation. So supporting, you know, EFF and the Coalition Against Stalkerware, this is really important because they're right now trying to do better and trying to give more protections and go into legislation. As you guys are aware, on your screen is a link. So if you have any other thoughts or want more statistics than what was presented or the same statistics all over again, and also some resources about the situation and how to go about protecting people from stalkerware or getting help for people that are dealing with stalkerware, feel free to visit the site that's listed. I want to say thank you again, Zena and Joe, for sharing your expertise in this situation. It is a terrible situation in the first place. And also, again, thank you, RSA Conference, for having this talk. It is so critical that we start really having not just conversations that we take it further and do some actions around it. So thank you so much for existing, and thank you all for joining us. If you have any remaining questions, please feel free to DM Zena or Joe or myself directly on Twitter or LinkedIn, or even if you're on Instagram. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thanks, and please be safe.
Yes, be safe, everyone.
Yes.